Amani was used to silence. It followed her everywhere, through the crowded university halls where her classmates laughed about vacations she'd never afford, and in the tiny one-room home she shared with her grandmother, who hadn't walked since the stroke 2 years ago. Each day began the same: a cold splash of water from a rusted basin, a kiss on her grandmother's forehead, and then the long walk to campus with worn shoes and an empty stomach. Scholarships covered her fees, but hunger was her daily companion. Still, she smiled. People wondered how someone so poor could carry herself like royalty. What they didn't know was that her dignity had been earned when life gave you nothing. But struggle, carrying your head high, became your rebellion. It was during one of these long, weary walks that she first saw him. He sat on the same corner every day near the university gate. A man in tattered clothes, face shadowed beneath a hoodie, hands outstretched but never demanding. He didn't beg. He simply existed, like a forgotten part of the city. The other students walked past him like he was air. A few threw coins, most didn't even look, but Amani always looked. Not out of pity, but curiosity. Something about him didn't fit. His posture was too proud, his hands too clean, and his eyes, when she dared glance at them, burned like coals under ash. Intelligent, watchful. One afternoon, as she passed, she noticed something odd. He wasn't asking for anything. Instead, he was drawing, on scraps of cardboard using a stub of charcoal. The sketches weren't just idle doodles, they were brilliant. Faces, animals, buildings, all with uncanny accuracy and haunting emotion. She paused. "You drew that?" she asked softly. The man didn't look up. "Depends. Are you going to laugh at me or report me?" "I don't do either," she said, "but I think you're wasting that talent sitting here." He looked at her then, properly. His eyes were deep-set, dark brown, and too sharp for a man who supposedly had nothing. "What would you know about wasting talent?" he asked. "I know enough," she replied, then continued walking. The next day he wasn't drawing, but he looked up the moment he saw her. "I never caught your name." "I never threw it," she smirked. He laughed, a low, surprised sound. "You're clever." "Not clever enough to be rich," she shot back. That made him pause. He studied her like she was the first honest thing he'd seen in years. "Maybe not yet." Over the weeks, their banter became routine. He told her his name was Jay, just Jay, no last name, no story. He listened more than he talked, and when he spoke it was in riddles that made her think. One day she brought him bread, nothing fancy, just what she could spare. His eyes softened, and for the first time he looked fragile. "Why?" he asked. "Because someday when I'm a big-shot lawyer, you'll owe me one," she teased. "You're already more than most of them," he murmured. She laughed, but something in her chest warmed. Jay never asked for anything. He gave her advice sometimes, on people, on decisions she was scared to make. He read her better than anyone, and yet he was a stranger, a street dweller, a ghost of a man hiding in plain sight. Then one morning, he vanished. His corner was empty. Days passed, then weeks. No one seemed to care, no one but her. It felt like losing something she didn't even know she had, until the day her world flipped upside down. In a campus auditorium packed with students, professors, and local media, a mysterious billionaire named Jaden M. Cole walked onto the stage. He was young, magnetic, dressed in a sharp-tailored suit, and he looked exactly like the beggar she used to feed. No hoodie, no charcoal, just power. And when his eyes swept the crowd, they paused on her, just for a second. He smiled. The same way he used to back when everyone ignored him, except her. Amani didn't move. Her fingers tightened around her notebook as her eyes stayed locked on the man on stage, the billionaire, the philanthropist, the guest speaker of the year. The same man she'd once handed a loaf of bread wrapped in old newspaper, Jay, or Jaden, or whatever his real name was. The auditorium buzzed around her with whispers, gasps, and awe. Everyone was excited to see him. He was the tech mogul who'd turned a struggling AI startup into a global empire. The rumors said he lived in Switzerland, owned private islands, and never did public appearances. Yet, here he was, at her university, like a ghost stepping into daylight. She didn't clap when the others did. Her heart was too busy tumbling over itself, trying to process the truth. How long had he been pretending, and why? Jaden spoke into the mic with smooth confidence. Some of you might recognize me, but most won't. That's fine. I wasn't always in suits and lights. I've walked where you walk, slept on benches, gone days without food. I've seen the world from the bottom. It changes you. He glanced across the crowd again. Amani dropped her gaze, suddenly furious. Furious at the lie, at herself, at the fact that she missed him. He kept talking, charming everyone. His speech was all about opportunity, resilience, and giving back. But to her, every word felt like a performance. A play she hadn't been invited to audition for. When the event ended, students rushed toward him for photos, selfies, handshakes. She stood back, arms crossed, lips pressed tight. She was turning to leave when she heard it. Amani. The voice was the same, only sharper. No hoodie to muffle it, no chill in his tone. She turned around slowly. Jaden was standing a few feet away. The crowd parted for him, curious eyes watching. "You lied to me," she said flatly. "I never lied," replied. "I just didn't tell you everything. Same thing. I didn't think you'd talk to me if you knew who I was." She laughed once, bitter. "So you dressed like a beggar and sat outside my school just to... What? Study me like a social experiment?" "No," he said softly. "I needed to disappear for a while. I'd just sold my company, and everything was noise. People wanted me for money, for favors, for deals. I couldn't trust anyone." "And you trusted me?" she asked. He nodded. "You were real. You looked me in the eye when no one else would. You fed me when you could barely feed yourself. You made me laugh when I felt like I was drowning. You didn't care who I was. You cared how I was." Amani looked at him, her eyes stinging. "That version of you, Jay, the guy on the street, I liked him. But you, this polished billionaire who hides behind cameras and stage lights, I don't know you." He took a step closer. "You do. He's me. Just cleaned up." She shook her head, trying to hold her emotions in place. "You let me think you were suffering like I was. You let me open up to you. You let me feel like we were equal." "We were equal," he said firmly. "More than you know." "No," she said quietly. "You had the power to leave. I didn't." He went quiet. The truth of it hung heavy between them. "You think I used you," he said. More statement. "Southern question." Amani didn't answer. Her silence was answer enough. Jaden stepped back, regret on his face. "I didn't plan any of this, but I'm not sorry I met you." "Good," she said. "Then let's keep it that way." A moment that mattered once. She turned and walked away before he could reply. That night, Amani lay awake next to her grandmother, staring at the cracked ceiling. Her mind was loud. Too loud. She wanted to forget him. But how do you forget someone who saw the pieces of... No one else did? And then 2 days later, a letter arrived. No stamp, no name on the envelope. Just a thick cream paper sealed with a strange mark. An embossed symbol of a lion and a rose. Inside was a single handwritten note. "If you don't believe my words, let my actions speak. Your grandmother's medical bills, cleared. Your final year, tuition, covered. Your internship at Moyer and Crane Legal, secured. I'm not trying to buy forgiveness, I'm just trying to finish what I started. Jay." Amani read it twice, then a third time. Her hands trembled, but her heart didn't know what to feel. Amani stared at the letter for what felt like hours. Her name wasn't written anywhere, yet everything inside was only for her. That messy handwriting, bold and impatient, like the man himself. The way he didn't beg or explain, just did. The kind of gesture only someone with real power and real guilt would make. She folded the letter carefully, almost angrily, like she was punishing the paper for making her heart feel too much. She didn't want help. She wanted the truth. And even now, Jaden or Jay or whoever he was still speaking in riddles. Her grandmother noticed her mood that evening. "What's wrong, child?" "Nothing," Amani said. But the old woman had seen too many storms in her life to be fooled by a silent one. "You got that face again. The one you had when your father left. all tight around the eyes like you're trying not to cry or burn the world down. Amani sighed and looked away. It's just school stuff. Her grandmother didn't press further. She just reached over, took Amani's hand and held it. Later that night, Amani checked the hospital account. Cleared. Every balance zeroed. She checked her tuition portal. Paid in full. Then she Googled the law firm named in the letter Moya and Crane, top-tier international, impossible to get into unless you had money influence. Or a guardian angel who used to sit on street corners. She should have felt grateful. But instead she felt erased, like her struggle had been wiped away without her permission. She didn't go to class the next day. She needed space. So she wandered through the city, avoiding places she might run into him. Except he found her anyway. He was waiting at the entrance of the art museum, dressed casually this time. Hoodie again, but not the ragged one. Hair tousled, not slicked back. Less billionaire. More boy. You stalk me now? She asked, no warmth in her voice. I asked your roommate where you might go if you were mad, he said. She said here. Amani rolled her eyes. Of course she did. Jaden shoved his hands in his pockets. I didn't mean to make you feel powerless. But you did, she said, looking him dead in the eyes. I lived every day with the weight of my life on my back. I earned every inch forward. Then you come in and erase all that with a single check. Now I'm just… What? Another story you saved? He looked genuinely pained. You're not a story. You're the only real thing I've had in years. She swallowed the knot in her throat. Then why didn't you tell me the truth from the start? Because people don't treat you the same when they know you have money. They fake smiles, fake respect. You didn't. You called me out. You made fun of me. You brought me bread when you were starving. You made me feel human. And now I don't? He was quiet for a long time. Now you look at me like I broke something. Amani's jaw clenched. You did. He stepped closer. Then let me fix it. You can't, she whispered, her voice cracking for the first time. He looked down. Maybe not. But I had to try. They stood there in the cold city air, surrounded by people who didn't care about either of them. The world kept moving, unaware that two hearts were on the edge of something irreversible. I don't want your money, she said softly. Then, take my time, he replied. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. What does that mean? It means I'll wait, he said. You don't owe me forgiveness, but I owe you honesty, so here it is. I fell for you. When I was nothing, you treated me like I mattered. And now that I'm something, I still… Amani looked away, blinking fast. You're a complicated man, Jaden M. Cole. He smiled, a little broken. So are you, Amani Kweku. That's why I can't forget you. She turned and walked away. Again. But this time she didn't cry. This time she was thinking. She didn't know if she was falling in love or walking into a trap, but she knew one thing. Jaden wasn't done showing up, and for the first time in a long time, neither was she. The days that followed were unusually quiet. Jaden didn't reach out. No texts, no notes, no mysterious appearances at her usual haunts. Amani thought she'd feel relieved, finally free to focus on herself, her studies, her goals. But instead, she found herself waiting, checking over her shoulder, listening for a voice she pretended not to miss. She hated it. She hated that someone who lived in a different world could still exist so vividly in her mind. Her internship at Moya and Crane began a week later. Walking through the tall glass doors felt like entering a realm not built for people like her. The floors were polished like mirrors, the walls lined with books she couldn't afford even on discount, and everyone moved like they had invisible crowns on their heads. She was assigned to a senior partner named Mr. Kavanaugh. Sharp suit, sharper tongue, no time for mistakes. This is not charity, he told her on the first day. Don't embarrass whoever decided to give you this shot. She nodded once, understood. But every time someone whispered about her being the billionaire's girl, her face burned. By day 3, she was already under pressure. Late nights, document runs, research she wasn't trained for. She handled it all, because Amani had lived in pressure her entire life. This wasn't new. What was new was the email that landed in her inbox that Thursday afternoon. Subject, urgent, background concern, Kweku, Amani. Her stomach dropped. She opened it slowly. It was a flagged memo. An anonymous tip had been sent to the firm. It claimed Amani had forged her credentials, that her academic record was fabricated, that she had previously been involved in fraudulent activities related to financial aid at the university. Every word was a lie, but the damage was immediate. HR pulled her into a cold white room. No greetings, no kindness. We've received serious allegations, Ms. Kweku. Until we can investigate, your access to the building and case files is suspended. She felt like she couldn't breathe. This isn't real. I didn't do anything. We hope that's true, but in the meantime we can't risk our reputation. She left the office with her head down, angry, confused, humiliated. As soon as she stepped outside, her phone buzzed, a message from a number she didn't recognize. You wanted to know what it felt like to fight alone. Let's see how far your dignity takes you now. Her hands trembled. It wasn't from Jaden, she knew that. This wasn't his style. This was someone who hated what she represented. A poor girl who dared to reach too high, and yet a tiny voice whispered, "Did Jaden's name put a target on your back?" She didn't go home. She walked for hours instead, ending up at the old bookstore she used to study in during her first year. She collapsed into a corner and finally let herself cry, not because she was weak, but because she was tired of being strong in a world that kept testing her worth. Then she heard the voice she hadn't heard in days. Amani? She looked up. Jaden stood in front of her, holding a coffee in each hand, looking like he hadn't slept. His hoodie was gone. He wore a simple grey sweater now, but his eyes, still the same. "Don't," she said, wiping her face quickly. "Not now." "I heard," he said, sitting beside her anyway. "The firm, the email, I know." She turned to him, furious. "Of course you do. How? Because you own them too?" "No, but I know someone inside who tipped me off. This wasn't random. Someone's trying to bury you," she swallowed. "Because of you." Jaden's jaw tightened. "Maybe, but that doesn't mean I'm going to let it happen." "I told you. I didn't want your help." "This isn't help. This is war." She looked at him, stunned. "You think I walked the streets just to run from fame?" he continued. "I did it because I'd forgotten who I was before the money. And when I met you, I remembered. That fire in you, that fight, that's what the world needs more of, but they'll do everything to kill it." Amani closed her eyes. "I can't breathe anymore. Every time I move forward, something drags me down." Jaden leaned in closer. "Then let me be the one who drags you up, just once. Let me fight beside you." She hesitated. "Please," he said. "If not for me, then for the girl who gave a piece of her bread to a man who had nothing." Something broke in her then, not in a bad way, but like a dam cracking after holding back too much. She nodded. Once, not because she trusted him again, not fully, but because sometimes even the strongest people need someone to stand beside them when the arrows come. The next morning didn't begin with fear. It began with fire. Amani woke up with something new in her chest, not anger, not pain, but purpose. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she was playing defense. She was ready to strike back. She didn't call Jaden. She didn't need him to carry this fight for her. But she did need to understand who she was really up against. Whoever sent that anonymous email wasn't just trying to shame her. They wanted to erase her, and they almost did. Almost. She dressed in her best. Black blazer, white blouse, hair tied back sharp. She walked back into Moya and Crane not as a frightened intern, but as a woman on a mission. HR tried to block her. "Miss Kweku, we told you." "I'm here for Mr. Kavanaugh," she said firmly. "Tell him he can either see me now or answer for his silence when the truth comes out." Something about her voice made the assistant pause. 5 minutes later, she was standing in Kavanaugh's office. He looked annoyed but curious. "You've got 2 minutes," he said. "Good," she replied. "That's all I need." She slid a document across his desk. Printouts of her university records, scholarship approvals, internship acceptance, letters from prior firms, and a notarized letter from the university's registrar verifying her background. All clean, all legit. "I didn't forge anything," she said. "And if someone in this firm believed an anonymous email over due process, that's a liability you'll have to answer for." Kavanaugh stared at her, Then at the documents. His jaw shifted. "Who helped you put this together?" She gave all. Him a tight smile. "What difference does it make? You already decided I didn't belong here." To her surprise, he leaned back. "You've got teeth, Kweku. Most people break at the first hint of scandal." "I don't break," she said. "I sharpen." He said nothing for a moment. Then finally, "Your internship is reinstated. Don't waste it." She walked out of his office with her head high. Later that night, she met Jaden on the rooftop of a downtown hotel. He'd sent the location hours earlier. No context. Just a short message. "You'll want to see this." He stood at the edge, looking over the city, hands tucked into his coat pockets. She joined him silently. "You crushed it today," he said. Without turning, "Were you spying on me again?" "I call it concerned observation," she smirked despite herself. "Stalker vibes." He finally looked at her, grinning. "Guilty." Then he got serious. "You're not the only one who's been targeted." Amani frowned. "What do you mean?" He pulled out his phone and handed it to her. "Read this." It was a message thread, screenshots, from an anonymous whistleblower inside his company. Someone had been digging into his records too, twisting timelines, planting stories in niche blogs, trying to frame his disappearance last year as a mental breakdown or a scandal involving insider trading. "They're trying to ruin us both," she said. He nodded. "Someone powerful, someone scared." She narrowed her eyes. "Scared of me?" "Scared of what we represent together," he replied. "A poor girl who won't stay down, a billionaire who won't play by the old rules." Amani took a step back. "You think this is about us?" "I think it always has been." The truth settled between them like smoke. Then he showed her a photo, grainy surveillance footage of a woman leaving an office at midnight. "This is the assistant who leaked your file. And guess who she used to work for? My father." Amani blinked. "Wait, your father? The real estate tycoon who vanished from the public eye after you took over?" Jaden nodded. "He hates how I run things, hates that I invest in tech, education, community, says I'm ruining the legacy. He wants the company back, and now I think he wants to destroy anyone close to me." Amani looked away, her breath catching. This wasn't just a misunderstanding or an office scandal. This was something deeper, more dangerous. "You brought me into your storm," she whispered. "No," he said quietly. "You walked in on your own, and I've never respected anyone more for it." She met his eyes. "So what now?" Jaden turned, eyes blazing. "Now we fight. Not just for our names, but for every person who's ever been told they don't belong. You in?" Amani didn't hesitate. "Always." And just like that, they became something else. More than just a poor girl and a billionaire. They became a threat, not because of money or status, but because they were unafraid. Together. The war didn't begin with explosions, it began with whispers, anonymous blog posts hinting at internal corruption in the coal empire, leaked emails with suspicious omissions, financial reports that didn't add up but not enough to draw real legal fire, just enough to make people start asking questions. And in the center of it all, one name kept surfacing in the shadows: Amani Kweku. She's a fraud. She seduced her way into power. He's blinded by her. She's going to ruin him. Amani read every line with the same tight jaw. She had to. Knowing your enemy's lies was half the battle. Jaden, however, was losing patience. There was a non-factor before she met him, one article claimed. Jaden slammed his laptop shut. "They talk about you like you're some parasite I picked up in the gutter." Amani remained calm, sipping tea like the world wasn't trying to spit her out. That's what powerful men do when they feel threatened. They strip women of their voice, and then they sell the silence. Jaden paced the floor of his penthouse like a caged animal. "He's orchestrating all of this. My father's fingerprints are all over it." "Then let's give him a reason to be afraid," Amani said, standing. He looked at her. She had that look again. The one that made her seem 10 feet tall even in her worn boots. "Tell me everything," she said. "I want to know where the bodies are buried." He hesitated, not out of distrust, but because what he was about to share could shift everything between them. "My father has offshore accounts, hidden trusts, shell companies, bribes disguised as campaign donations." I spent the last 2 years untangling his mess so I could rebuild the company without blood money. But if I expose him fully, you risk losing your board, Amani finished, and everything I've built. Amani didn't blink. Then, it's time to decide what's worth more, your empire or your integrity. Jaden looked at her for a long time, then he made the call. They spent the next 48 hours locked in strategy. Jaden's legal team vetted documents while Amani dug into public records. Her instincts were sharp, her logic sharper. She found patterns no one else saw, companies that tied back to politicians, land grabs in struggling neighborhoods, tech investments tied to data exploitation. Your father isn't just corrupt, she whispered. He's dangerous. Jaden nodded grimly. And now he knows we're onto him. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon. Amani stepped out of a rideshare and headed to the courthouse. She had one goal, to deliver the financial evidence to a trusted investigative journalist before Cole Sr. could bury it. But she never made it inside. A black SUV screeched to a halt in front of her. 2 men in suits jumped out. Ms. Kweku, come. With us. She froze. Who are you? They flashed ID. Private security. Corporate insignia. Your presence has been requested. Now. She was about to turn and run until a third man stepped out from the shadows. He was tall, older, immaculately dressed, with eyes like cold steel. Hello, Amani, he said. She recognized him immediately from the photos, Jaden's father. I've been meaning to meet the woman who's managed to make my son both stupid and sentimental. Amani didn't flinch. I'd say it's an upgrade from being cold and corrupt. He smiled, slow and dangerous. Get in the car, let's talk like adults. She hesitated. I'm not threatening you, he said, voice smooth like poisoned honey. I'm giving you a choice, which is, walk away, disappear from my son's life, and I'll make sure you never want for anything again. A quiet life, a paid-off house, a future that doesn't end in flames. Amani stared at him, then laughed. See, she said, you still think money can buy anything, but that's where Jaden's different, and that's why he's already beaten. The smile faded from his face. You'll regret this. No, she said, stepping back, but you might. Before he could respond, a car screeched around the corner. Jaden behind the wheel, he jumped out, rage in his eyes. Get away from her. His father looked at him with contempt. I built you. Don't forget that. Jaden stepped forward. And I'll be the one to bury your legacy. Amani took his hand, her voice steady. Let's finish what we started. They left without another word. And that night the first batch of files leaked online. Evidence of corporate theft, backdoor deals, and public manipulation. The world took notice. So did the law. And Jaden Cole's father. He knew now. He was no longer fighting a poor girl from the streets. He was fighting a storm. The fallout was immediate. News channels broke the story before dawn. Headlines screamed corruption. Coal Empire stock dipped 14% before the markets even opened. Anonymous whistleblowers crawled out from the shadows, and for the first time in decades, Jaden's father wasn't the predator. He was the hunted. Amani sat on the edge of Jaden's rooftop, watching the skyline. Her hair whipped around her face, but she didn't notice. Her eyes were locked on the city below, bright, loud, trembling with the sound of something finally breaking. Jaden joined her with 2 mugs of coffee. He's gone underground, he said. No statements, no interviews. Probably prepping. A counterstrike. Amani took the cup silently. Still think we should have waited? He asked. She didn't answer right away. No, but I think this is only the beginning. And she was right. The media pivoted fast. From Cole Sr.'s crimes to Jaden's betrayal of the family legacy. Some called him a hero. Others, a spoiled son with a savior complex. And then came her Amani's name splashed across screens and websites, always with that venomous undertone. The poor girl who destroyed a dynasty. From streets to power, is she the real mastermind? Jaden Cole's mystery woman. What is she hiding? It was like the world couldn't believe she'd gotten here by anything but manipulation. One morning, she stepped outside and found a reporter waiting near her building. Ms. Kweku, do you have a comment on the allegations that you seduced Jaden Cole for influence? She didn't blink. I seduced no one, she said. But I did tell the truth. Maybe that's what scares you. She didn't wait for a reply. She walked off, head high, but the hits kept coming. She started receiving hate mail, notes under her door. Photos from her past, her childhood home, her sick grandmother, her old schoolmates leaked like ammunition. Jaden tried to shield her. "Let me pull you out of the spotlight," he said. "We can disappear, just for a while." But Amani stood, tall. "I've fought my whole life to be seen. I'm not about to hide now that they're finally looking." He kissed her then, soft, slow, proud. "You scare me sometimes." "You should," she said with a tired smile. "I scare them, too." But strength wasn't invincibility. The storm took its toll. One night she found Jaden alone in the apartment, fists clenched, staring at an unopened letter on the table. "What is it?" she asked. He didn't look at her. "My father's final." "Move," she stepped closer. "What does it say?" Jaden's voice was low, bitter. "He filed an injunction, claimed I used insider information to sabotage him. If it sticks, I lose voting power on the board. Everything we just did could fall apart." Her heart sank. "He's trying to erase you legally. You, me, all of it." He nodded. Amani sat beside him. "Then we do what we always do. We fight smarter." Jaden looked at her like she was the only real thing left in a world made of glass. "No," he whispered. "This isn't your fight anymore. I've already dragged you too deep." She stared at him, quiet, and then like a knife. "Don't you dare." He blinked. "What? Don't you dare push me away because things got hard. That's what weak men do. I've stood beside you when the world spat on me. I've bled for this truth. You don't get to decide when I tap out." He grabbed her hand, desperate, afraid. "I just don't want to lose you." "You never had to keep me," she said. "You just had to believe I chose to stay." And in that moment, something deeper than love bloomed between them. Not the fairy tale kind, the earned kind. Grown. Through fire and ruin. They had one card left to play, and it wasn't legal, it was personal. A voice recording. A conversation Jaden's father had with a government official years ago, one that hinted at threats, cover-ups, and backroom deals. That could burn more than just the coal name. It could burn everything. "If we release this," Jaden said, holding the file, "it'll destroy him. But it'll drag down people in power, too. People who won't forgive you or me." Amani looked him straight in the eye. "I didn't come this far to leave ashes unlit." The decision to release the recording wasn't made lightly. Jaden and Amani sat together, the city lights flickering below them like warning signs. The audio file was queued, ready to send to every major media outlet, whistleblower agency, and investigative reporter with a spine. One click, and everything would change. They stared at the screen for a long while. "You sure?" Jaden asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Amani didn't blink. "I was sure the moment your father tried to buy me out of your life." Jaden reached for the mouse. She stopped him. "No," she said. "Let me do it." He let go. Amani clicked send. The file went out like a signal fire. In the recording, Cole Sr.'s voice was unmistakable, calm, calculating, soaked in entitlement. "We can delay the zoning permits if they don't play nice. The mayor's already in my pocket, and if the regulators ask too many questions, I'll remind them about that little incident with his nephew." It was damning, not just for him, but for politicians, developers, and officials who'd used power like a personal weapon. By morning, the world had turned. Hashtags trended. Reporters swarmed courthouses. Protesters filled the streets outside Cole. Holdings headquarters with signs reading, "Justice for the silenced," "Truth over bloodlines." A poor girl burned the dynasty down. Jaden's father tried to issue a statement, but no one cared anymore. His allies vanished. The board called an emergency vote. By the end of the day, he was stripped of every title. His assets frozen, his legacy scorched. And Jaden? He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He stood at a press conference, Amani beside him, and said only this: "No one is above the truth, not even those who gave us our name." Then he stepped. Back let Amani speak. She had never spoken in front of cameras before, never stood on stages. But when she opened her mouth, the world leaned in. "This wasn't about revenge," she said. "This was about memory, about every girl who was told she didn't belong in the room, every boy whose truth was too inconvenient for power. We're not here because we want a piece of the empire. We're here because we survived it." Her voice didn't tremble, her chin didn't drop, and when she walked away, she didn't look back. Weeks passed. The dust began to settle. Jaden's company weathered the storm, scarred but standing. He kept his board seat. Amani finished her internship, now courted by half a dozen firms who once ignored her, but none of that mattered to her as much as freedom. Freedom from proving her worth. Freedom from begging to be heard. She had earned her name back. One evening they sat quietly on that same rooftop. No chaos, no headlines, just them. Jaden watched the horizon. "You ever think about what might have happened if we'd never met, all the time?" Amani said. He turned to her. "And? I'd still be fighting," she said. "But maybe I wouldn't have known what it felt like to be seen." He reached into his coat and pulled out something small. A simple silver ring. No diamonds, no flash. Just engraved inside, still standing. She stared at it. Her breath caught. He didn't kneel, didn't say some grand speech. He just offered it gently. "I don't need a wedding, or papers, or promises. I just want to keep showing up for you. If you'll let me." She took the ring, slipped it on, then whispered, "Took you long enough." He smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. They never became the perfect couple. They argued. They disagreed. They grew, they failed, and they built again. But through it all, they remembered what made them unstoppable. She, the poor girl who never bowed. He, the billionaire who dared to be human. Together, they walked a path no one thought they should, and that's exactly why they won.